Hello and hi everyone. My name is Shafiqah Marjan. I want to tell you that I have found a new species, and this species belongs to Ecdysozoans. So, me and my team will explain more about the diversity of Ecdysozoans.
In the end of this video, you should be able to identify the characteristic unique to Ecdysozoan, compare the anatomical feature of roundworm and arthropod, and describe 5 characteristics responsible for the success of the arthropod. Do you know what Ecdysozoans are? Ecdysozoans are protostome and include roundworm and arthropod. Ecdysozoans do not undergo spiral cleavage. Now let's talk about the characteristic of the Ecdysozoan. First, they have a cuticle which protect and support the animal and periodically shed to allow growth. Second, Ecdysozoans have evolved in separate sexes, which is they are come together and copulate to deliver sperm into the female body or fertilize egg as they are released. Now let's talk about roundworm. Roundworm, also known as phylum Nematoda. They are non-semitic worms that are prevalent in almost any environment. Nematodes are the most numerous multicellular organism on Earth. Do you know why? It is because they are so abundant in soil. These worms range in size from microscopic to over 1 meter in length. Internal organs, including the tubular reproductive organ, lie within the pseudocolon. Do you know what is pseudocolon? Pseudocolon is body cavity that incompletely lined by mesoderm, which occur inside the body wall but not around the digestive cavity. Next, nematodes are free-living other important parasite of plant and animal. For example, Xenohabditis elegans. Next, parasitic roundworms. Nematodes of the genus Ascaris, which can infect domestic animals and a number of other vertebrates. In fact, the CDC estimates that at any one time, up to 1 billion people are infected with nematodes of the genus Ascaris, though relatively rare in the United States, especially in areas with poor sanitation. For your information, Ascaris males tend to be smaller than females. A typical female Ascaris produces over 200,000 eggs daily. The eggs are eliminated with the host feces and can remain viable in the soil for many months. Okay guys, do you know that eggs can enter human bodies? The eggs enter human body via uncooked vegetable, soiled finger, or ingested fecal material and hatch in the intestine. These are the symptoms of an Ascaris infection, which is in the lungs such as coughing or bloody sputum, while in the intestine such as malnutrition, blockage of the bile and pancreatic ducts, and poor health. Next, trichinosis. Trichinosis caused by Trichinella spiralis can infect humans when they are eating rare food that contains encysted Trichinella larvae. The female adults burrows into the wall of the small intestine and produce offspring which carry by the bloodstream to skeletal muscle where they are incised. Next, filarial worm. Filarial worm cause various diseases. For example, mosquitoes can transmit the larvae of parasitic filarial worms to dogs. The infection called heartworm disease. Next, Elephantiasis is caused by Wuchereria bancrofti. The adult filarial worms reside in lymphatic vessel. The removal of lymph fluid is impeded, and the limbs of an infected person may swell to a monstrous size. Lastly, pinworms are the most common nematodes parasite in US, occurring most commonly in children. The adult parasite live in the cecum and large intestine. Females migrate to the anal region at night and lay their eggs. Scratching the resultant itch can contaminate hands, clothes, and bedding. The eggs are swallowed and life cycle begins again. Fortunately, this infection is easily cured.
Coinciding with this finding, I have built a 3D model to explain more detail about this species. This model is known as Exoskeleton Composition. This model is actually the characteristics of one of this diversity, which is arthropods. Arthropods contain 5 characteristics, which are exoskeleton, nervous system, segmented bodies, variety of respiratory system, and metamorphosis. Before I explain in more detail about these characteristics, I will tell you what arthropods are. Arthropods, or in other words, phylum Arthropoda, is a very large group of protostomes that have exoskeleton and jointed appendages. The species that can be classified as arthropods are insects, crustaceans, centipedes, millipedes, spiders, and scorpions. The size of these species is less than 0.1 millimeter up to 4 meter in length. Arthropods occupy every type of habitat and are the most successful group of all the animals. Next is the characteristic of arthropods. The first characteristic is exoskeleton. Exoskeleton is made of chitin, a mixture of lipids, carbohydrates, and proteins. It is functioning to cover and protect their bodies. The second characteristic is segmented bodies. Segmented bodies are internally and externally segmented, and the number of the segments depends on the individual species. The third characteristic is the nervous system. Arthropods have a brain and a ventral nerve cord, also have well-developed touch, smell, taste, balance, and hearing. This species also displays many complex behaviors and methods of communications. The fourth characteristic is the variety of respiratory system. This system has two forms, which are marine forms and terrestrial forms. Marine forms use gills, while terrestrial forms have book lungs or air tube called tracheae. Tracheae serve as a rapid way to transport oxygen directly to the cells. The last characteristic is metamorphosis. Arthropods undergo a drastic change in form and physiology at an immature stage or larva to become an adult. They live in different environments and eat different foods to reduce competition.
Now, let's get to know the part of the 3D model with their functions. First, seta. It is functioning to defense locomotion and prey capture. Second, epicuticle, to reduce water loss and block the invasion of foreign matter. Third, exocuticle, to supports and protects the soft tissues of certain animals. Fourth, endocuticle, to transport cuticle material and enzymes to the outer pro and epicuticle parts. Fifth, epidermis, to protect body. Sixth, tegumental gland, to produce mucous substances by the mouth parts. 7. Basement membrane, to provide physical and biochemical cues to overlying cells. And the last one is opening to tegumental gland.
Let's dive into crayfish. So crayfish's head and thorax are fused together as one and are called cephalothorax. Cephal means head, while thorax means breastplate, and they are covered by this non-segmented carapace on top and on the sides of its head. So at the abdominal segment of crayfish, there are little swimmerettes. The first two swimmerettes are called claspers, and these claspers are for reproductive purposes. And what makes up the tail is the uropod and talcin. These swimmerettes are small paddle-like structures that help them swim. You can actually see swimmerettes on prawns that we have. For the nervous system, it has a brain and ventral nerve cord that passes posteriorly, and along it there's a periodic ganglia that gives off lateral nerves. It also has sensory organs, which the compound eyes are up on top of movable stalks that are sensitive to polarized light and can detect motion. The other sensory organs include tactile antenna and chemosensitive satia, as well as statosis. For respiration, they have gills, which are placed above the walking legs and are protected by carapace. Saying uropods and talcin makes the part of the crayfish's tail.
And now, I'll be talking about millipedes and centipedes. While both millipedes and centipedes belong to the same phylum, which is the Arthropoda, and to the same subphylum Myriapoda. Millipedes, however, belong to the class Diplopoda, while centipedes belong to the class Chilopoda. Both of them are invertebrates, which means that they don't have a backbone. But however, they do have hard exoskeletons to protect themselves upon impact. Both of them have segmented bodies and jointed legs, but millipedes have 2 pairs of short legs on each body segment, while centipedes only have 1. Millipedes have short antennae and move in slow waveforms, while centipedes have long antennae, and their back legs are nearly as long as their antennae, which is easily confused. In addition to poisoning animals with their venomous bite, centipedes can use their long back legs to squeeze a predator when threatened. Millipedes, on the other hand, curl up their bodies into a tight spiral so that they can protect their soft undersides. Many species of millipedes also developed a defensive gland, also known as oesopores, that secretes a foul substance at their predator when threatened.
There's this one insect that has 3 pairs of legs, in which the last pair of legs has extensor and flexor muscles. So what these muscles do is help them improve for jumping. Can you guess what I'm talking about? Of course, it's the grasshopper. They also have 2 pairs of wings, which are the hind wings and forewings. Hind wings are broad and thin, while forewings are tough and leathery. Okay, for the abdomen, they have this large tympanum that collects sound wave, and in female grasshoppers, there are ovipositors that are for laying eggs. For the respiratory system of grasshoppers, they have this spiracles located at its abdomen. Air then goes into the spiracles and into tracheas that branch and rebranch to place where gas exchange occurs. Grasshoppers contain slender tubular heart that lies on the dorsal wall of the abdominal exoskeleton and pumps hemolymph into the hemocoel, which circulates before returning to the heart once more. These hemolymph lack respiratory pigments, so it is colorless and mainly transports nutrient and waste. The digestive system of a grasshopper matches its herbivorous diet. Firstly, food enters the mouth and it is chewed and broken down by its enzymatic saliva. It is stored in the crop before being passed down to the gizzard, where it finely grinds the food. It is then finalized when the food enters the stomach, as nutrients are absorbed into hemocoel from the out pockets called gastric caca.
Next would be chelicerates. Fundamentally, all chelicerates have 2 body regions: the anterior prosoma, which is the region that bears the eyes, brain, mouth parts, and walking legs, and the posterior optissima, which is the region that bears the respiratory and reproductive organs. Modern sea spiders have lost the optissima altogether, with most of their organ systems distributed within the legs. In some arachnid groups, such as mites and ticks, the hatchling is often hexapodous and does not obtain the 4th pair of legs until after it molts. Some groups have lost 1 or more sets of appendages altogether, like the gallmite family, which is 4-legged as an adult. Besides that, the chelicera, which is the anterior most appendage of such groups as spiders, scorpions, and horseshoe crabs, are called chelate, which appears distantly as a pair of scissors. In general, most of the modern chelicerate species are predators or scavengers.